Thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you really quickly want to introduce yourself in your own words? Who are you and what do you do?
Let's see. This is hard. My name is
Yeah.
Jamie Loftus. I'm a comedian and writer.
Mm-hmm.
And I write for TV and make animations and host podcasts.
You do a lot of stuff. Yeah. I was just thinking of that. I'm like, what's one thing I can pick out? But I'm like, there's so much that you do. There really is. I think the first time I saw you, too many? I don't know. You're getting out there. I think it was was it Upgraded? Was that the name of that show?
Oh, on Super Deluxe.
Yeah.
Good throwback.
That was a throwback. How long ago was that now?
Almost 3 years, I think.
Oh,
it was a while ago.
It's still, that was a fun show. And then all of a sudden it was just gone. What happened?
Oh boy. I mean, that was just like the slow death of those companies. Like that was so excruciating. And it was just slowly being shut down by late capitalism. And it was with shows like that. It's like we were paid basically nothing. And then you would be signed up for a 10 episode. Like they're like, you have to do 10. And then if they could find someone who would do something grosser for even less money, then your show would just kind of go away.
Really? Is that pretty much what it was? So they were just like, oh, what can we pay people to do?
Well, the people who worked there, I mean, I had like issues with the larger infrastructure, but like the creatives there were awesome and they like did give you a lot of creative freedom. But it was stuff like that where it was like you were constantly kind of being asked to skirt legal because what we were doing was like sometimes kind of dangerous.
Oh, wow.
And there was like, I think the last episodes we shot were like back-to-back days, and like I hadn't even been able to like I hadn't been able to get my blood to clot from the previous day, but I still had to show up the next day and like butt chug milk, all of which I voluntarily did. Like it wasn't like you have to butt chug this milk. Like that was my idea.
Yeah.
But it just became very physically taxing.
I can imagine. I mean, you guys were doing some crazy stuff. What? Yeah. Can you talk about that experience? The butt chugging the milk, though.
Yeah.
Did that mess you up?
No, I've been doing that anyways. That was another thing where Super Dogs was like, oh, you do that? Do that for us. I was like, all right. At that time, I was doing a lot of body horror stuff. So one of the things was that I would do like short ballets and then like ballet, very quote unquote. And then at the end would butt chug as much milk as would go into my butt, basically. It just kind of is, you're just signing yourself up for like, you can't really have plans for the next 2 days. That's kind of it though.
Yeah. I can imagine it could be very taxing in your body and your butt. So it's one of those things. So you were doing a lot of stuff back then. But then you started, jumping, you did this whole Mensa thing. Which you actually released kind of a short podcast on as well, right? A small series. And we can always plug all those things as well. But I think, can you kind of elaborate for the listeners what exactly you were doing there and what you learned?
Sure. That was kind of an interesting project because it wasn't planned in any way. And so it was very like, I had to fly by the seat of my pants of like, what am I trying to do here? And like, what is my, I guess, like what would I like for someone's takeaway from this to be? Because it started kind of around the time Super Deluxe was ending, where I was still more doing like really over the top experimentation stuff. And so I've been writing for the same place for a while, and they were like, oh, take the Mensa test, it'll be funny, you can write about it, and then that'll just kind of be it. But then I got in, and all this stuff that was like, I have a background in journalism, I just hadn't really been using it. I had I don't know. I had just been drinking milk for money at that time. And but it's like, I was like, okay, this is like an actual story,
Yeah.
but I kind of have to like pivot my approach to it.
Sure.
And so it was, I mean, which is, I guess people could argue happened with mixed results, because I did go in with one thing and then sort of shifted. But yeah, what I ended up finding was that there is like a really deeply, I mean, I feel like the word toxic is kind of overused, but it is the word that comes to mind.
Okay.
Like the culture there was so fucked up so quickly. Like it just, everything in this group escalated so quickly.
Oh, wow.
And so I just wanted to find out, like, well, what is it about this group that made, and it seemed, for me, it sort of ended up seeming like, well, foundationally, this behavior is kind of encouraged because it was like based on all these eugenics like ideas that are just encouraging people to feel like they are on a biological level better than everyone around them. And so once I did more research on that, it's like, oh, of course that these behaviors are kind of inherent to that mindset. And it's not everybody. There's some people that are just there to, like, be dorks and have fun, which is great. Yeah. But there was like this, I mean, kind of like really dominant just like intolerance in the group. That,
really? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Like elite, like an elitism over everyone else that wasn't part of the group, essentially, or?
No, I mean, it was a lot of infighting as well, where I think that there was a lot of, like, in the group that I was writing about, and then I guess studying, but I was like, the group that originally targeted me, that I then started to talk to other people, because it was, I mean, I was not the only one by a long shot.
Sure.
And it's kind of a free-for-all. I think it's like a foundation of a very, like, free speech at all costs, that rabbit hole. And so they just would say anything. I mean, the forum that I was covering, which is the biggest forum in the organization, was like regularly, it was like extremely racist, sexist, transphobic, kind of anything you could imagine was tolerated and not moderated because of this free speech mindset. But it was like, I mean, not only was it very scary and like a toxic thing, it was just like, well, what is this group trying to accomplish? If like the most passion I've seen them express is over their, like, they're feeling that it is their legal right to express hate. Like, what is this group for? Like, what are we supposed to be doing here?
Sure.
So that was kind of what the story ended up exploring. And it's still going on, and it just is never going to stop, and I'm just going to, it's going to be forever.
Right. So it's not really, I mean, they kind of pin themselves as an organization that helps very intelligent people, right? But it's really kind of an elitist organization that doesn't do much. It doesn't have a real, like, goal in helping people. Right. And
so it just opens itself up to all of these really counter to anything kind of. It's really frustrating, because it's like there are a lot of people that I'm sure are intelligent, but it also has to do with, like, well, what test did you pass? Who is that test built for? Who is inclined to succeed at those? I mean, and that's all standardized tests. Like, they are not, built for everyone to succeed equally. And so, there's a barrier to entry to begin with. Also, you have to want to pay $75 for people to say you're smart. So that's another barrier to entry.
Oh, you have to pay? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you have to give them money. And so it's like, if you're in, you have to truly, like, want to be there. You have to pay them to take a test, and then you have to pay after you take the test. And then you get to be in the hate forum. Like, it's just like so dark.
Yeah, and that sounds like it. It sounds, I mean, I'm sure everyone who hasn't listened to it, you're going to have to go listen to it, of course. But it's just one of those things where it sounded like you just went in doing one thing and found out a whole different thing. Was that your expectation going into it? I mean, what were you hoping to figure out?
I don't really know. I mean, originally going in, it was just supposed to be kind of a jokey thing. And then I got in and I kept writing like it was a jokey thing. And then the turning point was when there was this like really intense group that was brought to my attention that were after me, and they were after all these other people. So it eventually, it became a safety thing of just like, well, if I already have sort of like a small platform, but like no one is writing about Mensa, so I'm here, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because there were people in the group who just genuinely like did not feel safe, and like rightfully so, the way that people would talk to them and like openly threaten them, and especially, I mean, but this was a group that was endorsed by the organization, and so people were regularly bringing like death threats made against them to the top of American Mensa, and they would just say, it's free speech, sorry. Like there would sometimes be a slap on the wrist to the person that had done it. Sure. But there was never any lasting consequences. The discussion that the group was like maybe not healthy and not, it just didn't come up for years. Those discussions are, I mean, there's been rumblings. I certainly was not the first person to say like, hey, is this fucked up? Like plenty of people knew it was fucked up.
Sure.
But I think that it was just, I mean, it's like, unfortunately kind of like that PR thing of like, I don't think the group felt the need to address it until they were getting negative PR about it.
Right.
So,
yeah, they weren't going to be proactive about it. They're just going to hope nobody finds out.
That's where I come in. And so, I mean, the good thing is, and it's still kind of, it's like dragging on forever and remains to be seen, but there are now discussions in place to not even get rid of the group, but just like remove its official status as a Mensa endorsed organization, which is kind of, I mean, which it truly is like the least you can do is to be like, we're not deleting your hate group. We're just not putting our seal of approval on it. And even that has just been, the discussions around that have been like, just endless. I don't know, but
yeah. No, I can imagine. That's quite interesting. I mean, you do a lot of different writing, and you're officially an Emmy nominated writer. Congratulations on that.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a very big deal. Is that your first nomination?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you never know. I have to ask, but it's one of those things. How does it feel? Are you excited about it?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I didn't really expect it, and it's kind of fun because especially because it's for an animated project, it's really exciting, and also it feels weird because it's like stuff that we wrote like over 2 years ago. And because the timeline is so long, and so it's like, whoa, good for it. Like it's, I don't know. And then it's also like, we're going to watch it on YouTube in a month at our house. And like, I'm excited. It's just it is so surreal being like, well, I still have to like scoop cat. Like there's like, I don't know. But I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, that's a really big deal, and that's awesome. I mean, it's one of those people's dreams, to be able to kind of be nominated or considered for one of these things.
I feel really lucky.
It's such a big thing. I mean, did you start down this path in your career? I mean, thinking that you would be writing specifically? I mean, what did you want to do when you grew up?
I definitely wanted to write. But I just like, I think maybe it's still kind of at this point where I just never like really settled on like, and I want to do this kind of writing. Like I always kind of bounced around a lot, and my dad is like a local sports journalist, and so I always, while I have no feelings really about sports, I did like watching him be like a reporter and do like interviews and deadline, like all of that was always very appealing to me. But I also liked doing creative writing, and so I don't know, and then when I found stand-up in college, and then like right out of college a little more, it was kind of fun because it was like, oh, here's like a creative writing outlet that I have. And then when I started, like I did like a string of jobs that was like, I was like a substitute gym teacher, and I like worked at 5,000 bakeries and all that stuff. My first like I guess 9 to 5-ish kind of job was as a reporter, and so I could like do that during the day, and then I went and like worked at a comedy theater at night, and then had that outlet as well. And between those two jobs was like almost able to pay my student loans, but like kind of not really. But yeah, it's like always finding like the balance between, I always like wanted to do comedy writing and like creative writing, and then also really love working on like long-term feature stories. And so I mean, the balance is, you know, it's hit and miss, but
Sure.
I really like both of those areas.
That's really good. And comedy is one of those things where you just, I mean, it takes a very special type of person to be a comedian.
Putting it very delicately.
I don't, you're right. I'm trying to be delicate. I don't know. I mean,
Broken people.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That's probably more on the nose. Broken. I tell friends. I was telling friends this week where I was like, okay, there's something about me always wanting to crack jokes, right? Like I'm always just like, and I don't know what it is, that it's a defense mechanism for sure, right?
Definitely, yeah.
Right. Like I'm just like, if I can make fun of myself first, I have control over my story and my narrative, so nobody can attack me. And then I'm just always just cracking jokes. So there is like a sense of trauma, like that maybe kind of goes into your writing or goes into your like comedy. Is that something that happens for you?
For sure. Yeah. Were you, I mean, I guess, were you like really jokey growing up, or were you shy, or like what was your, I feel like there's like a few subcategories of like, I was a shy kid that was like,
Right.
oh, now I can talk and I'm like have a little bit of control and like cool.
Yeah. I was shy. I got picked on a lot, like a lot.
Sure.
Definitely was bullied. And then I just didn't, I had to learn how to like read people really early and just read the room. So if I figured that, like, and I've always had the gift of gab, right? That's why I have podcasting as a hobby.
Yeah.
Literally just talk. So I think it was one of those things, like if I just talk enough and fill the empty space and I'm cracking jokes, I'll deflect them and they'll like me, right? And if they like me and I can make them laugh, then the threat's gone. And it's definitely maybe like it's definitely a defense mechanism for me. I mean,
for sure.
So is that how, I mean, were you always growing up, were you always cracking jokes as well? Or you're just like,
yeah, I was a lot of the time I was just kind of trying to like cut through noise, because I have one sibling, but my mom, it's like a weird complicated thing, but basically like my mom ran an illegal daycare out of our house because like I grew up in like a like lower middle class area where like no one could afford childcare, so it would just be like there'd be 10 kids at our house all day every day. And so I sort of remember just being like, I loved having like my cousins. They weren't all my cousins, but I thought they were, and so they are. All my cousins are over all day, and I just remember being like, I want to get my mom's attention. Like, so I think it was like early, I'm like, oh, I gotta be like loud and do something interesting to cut through all of these, like all 9 of these cousins.
Yeah.
So it's that, and then as it got older, I was I like wore a back brace at school for 3 years, which is just like,
dang.
yeah, so you're like, you just gotta have a personality or you're gonna get like decimated.
Oh yeah. You gotta have thick skin and the personality and deflect.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like defense, deflect.
You're like no, with my words, and it's So it's definitely one of those things that it's something that you use to kind of control your surroundings, and the more in control you are, the better you feel, especially with an audience, right? I remember I used to teach at one point at a college here, and I'd tell my students, I'm like, all right, well, I'm up here working on my bit, so the harder you laugh, the better the grit. And then some people would laugh, and I'm like, you guys got it, that was a joke, but obviously it's not landing, so I need to work on it a little bit more. And it's just always kind of you get addicted to this making people laugh, to standing in front of a crowd and being like, perform, right? Because I very much feel like an introvert. I definitely am not like the biggest fan of big groups of people, but I really do enjoy, like, if I'm in front of a people, I can turn it on. and I can be like,
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, Lee, okay, like let's do this, and I definitely have like a radio voice or like a whatever voice, and I'm like, I become this caricature of myself. That's not very
Totally.
realistic, right? Is that you?
No, that's I
Mhm.
feel like we're very similar in
Okay,
that way, where it's
sure.
just like, I don't know, and it is kind of confusing to explain to other people where you're
Mm.
like, I know that I don't shut up, but I am very introverted. Because it does
Right,
feel like
right.
kind of, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
definitely, there should be, maybe there is a word for it, but there should be a word, because it's like, yeah, if you need to turn it on and like
Uh-huh.
thrive in a group of people, you'll figure it out, but it's not preferable or
Oh
ideal.
no, no, heck
Yeah.
no. Like I'll be at home all day, dude. Like, working from home for me has been great.
Oh, it's
And
been incredible. I can be so like, just all of my like neuroses can just like thrive inside of a very small space,
oh
and it's
yeah. Oh
great.
yeah. I mean, the lack of me needing to have a filter anymore
Hmm.
is, I don't think that's good for me when I get back out there, right?
For sure, no.
Because I'm like my ticks and I get real quirky and I'll do like weird things. I definitely do have ticks. Like I have like I blow or like
Ooh.
I wink a lot. I do that. And I do so, and then I'll get real manic and I'll start like yelling, not in a bad way, but like yelling and yelping and like really excited.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't have to hold back anymore because I'm at home by myself.
Yeah, you can just like
Yeah.
live in that. I'm like, what is it going to be like when we're all together again? Because
Oh,
it has
jeez.
been kind of, I miss comedy so
Oh, yeah.
much.
Yeah.
But it's also, I mean, it's weird because I'm wondering if you are kind of the same.
Sure.
Part of why stand up especially was always so like good for me for the most part. I mean, I guess as good as it can be,
Hmm.
was because it's like I am not super inclined to be social otherwise, and so you're like,
Mm,
oh, you're creating this like
right. Right.
area of your life that it's work, but it's
Hmm.
social. And so that's,
Right.
I mean, and there's,
Yeah.
I guess, issues that come along with that, but it was nice to be like, oh, I have to go somewhere. I have to be among people for a
Hmm.
certain
Hmm.
amount of time.
Yeah.
Um,
And you work with other comedians as well. So,
yeah,
and I feel like other funny people are very similar, right? Very like-minded, where um you're in a room together and all of a sudden, because you're very similar and like-minded, it's fun. It's not a draining situation, it's a fun, fulfilling situation. So it's different in that
yeah,
sense, right? It's not like
yeah,
these little interactions that, I mean, those micro interactions on a day-to-day basis are just so draining to me, and I'm just like so tired from like, oh, hey, small talk, right? Or like you can just kind of cut to the chase, have a good laugh, and have a good time with people that think the same way you do, right?
sure, yeah.
um is that, so I guess going back to like you discovering comedy, I mean, you said it was in college, or
It was like towards the end of college,
how did
yeah.
that happen? Can you tell us that story?
Sure. Yeah, I had been interested in like it. I guess over the course of college, it like
Sure.
slowly became clear to me, like, oh, here would be a good meeting of interests I have. I didn't like
Okay.
grow up really watching stand up. I didn't grow up being like, I want to do that, and certainly not like I could do that. I
Sure.
would not have thought that I could.
Sure.
But it was weird. I mean, I feel like college for me was just a weird, slowly increasing like timeline of like me trying to be less shy and more self-sufficient and come out of my shell. And like I wasn't really like connected with the people that I went to school with,
Mm.
because I could kind of barely afford to go there. So I was like working full time. So I didn't really know anyone at my school,
Mm-hmm.
which is like an issue that a lot of students have. But like, it was just weird. I'm like, I'm here and I'm trying to be here, but I also feel very disconnected. But if I
Right.
don't feel that way, I can't be here. Like, it's just that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then socially, I was like, I worked at the school radio station, and I was there
Mm-hmm.
all the time, and like that was like one of the part-time jobs that I had, and I really liked it because I could still feel like I was hidden, but I was performing to an extent if I was like on air. I was like, that was like a good transitional thing almost, to be like,
Right.
okay, I like can have a personality and like, you know feel like I'm performing a little bit, but it's
Mm-hmm.
not like, look at me, like I just kind of
Sure.
wasn't really ready
Yeah.
for that.
Right.
um, but then, yeah, like towards the end of college, I auditioned for a group and ended up getting in for, I mean, I don't know, it was not the healthiest group, but I
It was a
started
start, right?
performing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, every college comedy group is like the scariest thing in the entire world. But it was, you know, it was a start. And then I got into the Boston stand-up scene from there,
Right.
which there was like the tiniest alt scene of all time in Boston, because it's like a lot of it is like probably what you would think when you think
Right.
about like Boston comedy, but there was this like baby tiny alt scene that was so, it was cool because there really weren't a lot of people there, so you could kind of like fuck around and really
Right.
experiment, and the people who were into it, and the people who were not into it didn't know it existed. And so that, like, I'm so grateful that I got to be involved in like that community, because I think if I had like, I don't know, I really admire comics who start in LA or start in like a gigantic space, because I felt like I was in this like tiny incubator of like, you know, 10 to 15 people that I like trusted. And that was like sort of where I was able to find start to find my voice and the kind of things I wanted to talk about. And that was just super lucky.
That's really awesome. So what is it that inspires you? What do you talk about? Like, what's your style? And are you evolving, or is it, pretty much, you're like, this is what I like and this is what I'm going to do?
I think it will probably, I've even thinking about this too, where I'm like, I think that my comedy is going to be different when we are allowed to do it again. Right. But I really like, I mean, I love absurdist stand-up. That has like been my wheelhouse for a while, but also even like expanding on that in LA, I have really been enjoying like writing short plays for myself to do, which it's really fun. And so it's these, I don't know, just basically taking a stand-up joke or premise that I think is funny, and then just instead making it a character and making it an entire hour. And I was able to travel with that last year, and that was like really exciting, and felt like because I love doing stand-up, but it's like there are some ideas that either like just don't work as stand-up, or you're just like, oh, I want to talk about this for an hour, but talking about it as myself will probably not be very interesting, and then would just become a list of things that I think are interesting.
I mean, so you have a good fan. I mean, I feel like you have a fan base, right? I feel like you do have, at least when I follow you on Instagram, especially, I think I noticed more so than anything when you're trying to do that filter with the platypus.
That was really fun.
That was fun because so many people were doing it. And was it for real, or were you just messing with people? Were you just not getting it?
I really wasn't getting it, and I was so frustrated. I was like, I truly to this day have not gotten it.
If you don't know, it's the filter where like it filters through different things, like a lottery, and then you end up, it says, what Beanie Baby are you? And you were trying to get the platypus, and you just couldn't get it.
Iconic Beanie Baby. I couldn't. I still I haven't been trying as much lately, but like for the longest time, it just wasn't happening, and it happened for literally everybody else.
Everyone else. I think it took me like 3 or 4 tries.
I know it was, and in that like carousel, it like pops up every second, and I just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And one of my like quarantine interests has been Beanie Babies, and like that Beanie Baby specifically, I was trying so hard to get her.
You haven't, so did you buy it? You bought it, right? You have that Beanie Baby. Do you?
Yeah, and it was kind of funny because people, I got 2. But it was kind of funny because people I kind of got like low-key accused of flexing. They were like, you know, Beanie Babies are really expensive, and like you should be donating money, which is like, yes, of course, and like, but those Beanie Babies cost $3. Like they cost $3, and I think that there is still this myth that Beanie Babies cost thousands of dollars. But
you remember that back then, right? You remember that the fever, Beanie Baby fever.
I've been like like fixated on it, and I like have read, there's like a whole book about it that I got really like obsessed with. And but then when you look on eBay, I got two from some lady in Indiana for $6 free shipping. So it's like they're around, everyone, you know. So that was fun. I got my Patty the Platypuses for
it's Patty the Platypus
steal.
For a steal. Look at you. You finally got one. Even you can just put it on your head and just, you know, walk around. Just put it right there.
Exactly. Like, here she is.
There she is. Finally got it, folks. What was the biggest thing, I think, like, because you do, like, you obviously people really enjoy you, and I do too. You have such great work, and you're such great quality work, and you're a great entertainer and just a great human being all around. What do you think was the big thing that people started really kind of like following you for? Was there something specifically that where you just noticed, you're like, wow, like people are watching, or people are listening to me, or like I have a voice? Has that happened, or do you feel like it's just you're living your life and that's
like King's Speech style? That's okay. I think that like Super Deluxe was definitely like a big deal for me at that time. Of like, that was, I think, my first experience of like being exposed to a lot of people very quickly, and all the like good and bad things that come with that. So that was like a huge like learning experience. And I think that like there's still like some people who are like learned about me through Super Deluxe who are still you know, hanging out now. And then there's like podcast listeners who are like the best, and so that is like I think was a big thing. And then I guess what was I just saying? I did a project where I was eating a book, and that there were some people that came through that. I don't know. It's funny because it's like it's you know, people that maybe have like pretty different interests. Like Super Deluxe viewer isn't necessarily going to love the Bechtel cast, isn't necessarily going to want to watch someone eat a book, but this is where everyone can just come together.
This is what with on your platform, right? Like you just bring people together, right?
Yes. Like, hey, are you a foot fetishist that is interested in intersectional feminism? Here's a spot for you.
Why the foot fetish? That sounds very specific, Jamie. What are you trying to get at?
That was I was thinking, I was writing about it for a little bit, but I found my page on WikiFeet, and I had a really good grade, but my feet are gross, and so I was interacting with WikiFeet users for some time. I didn't end up actually following through and writing the piece that I thought I was going to write, because I mean, my discovery was that the people on WikiFeet are so lovely and like willing to talk to you, and it was just such a wonderful you know, like affirming experience of they're just, you know, it was so lovely to talk to them. And then I just sort of ended up being like, you know what, I don't think, you know, it would be a very short story. It would be like, I
had a great time
to talk to the foot fetishists, but they were so nice, and they're very like clear about like, well, it's this and this. Here's why a gross foot can have 5 stars. And I was like, okay, well, I feel good about this. And they are, I mean, I can't really quantify what portion of my following is foot fetishes, but there definitely is a percentage based on my messages. But they're also like lovely. I feel like people demonize the WikiFeet community, because it is like, I mean, it's like it's a tough point of entry. Personally,
right?
That said,
what is it about feet? Like, what is it about? I mean, it says something. Somebody with like, you know, it says something about you. Like, oh, you take care of your feet. You know, like, hey, you have nice feet, right?
Sometimes it's that. Sometimes, I mean, I feel like it's like the way that like a lot of fetishes or fixations are, where it's like for a lot of people it connects back to their childhood of like an early like pleasant or like early somewhat erotic memory that involves a foot, and it just is a very sticky memory, and then you
Yeah,
can just
it's part of it. I mean, there's some weird fetishes out there. I mean,
truly
I think feet is the least of our problems, right? Like if you're into feet, like cool, man. You know?
sweetheart of a community. I mean, it's if there are some people that smear the foot fetish community's name, but in general, I have. I mean, I felt weird at first, but then I've never. I don't know. I guess it's just like I've encountered like vitriol and hate from so many communities, and I just have never had that experience with the foot fetish community.
You
Like,
just not what you were expecting.
yeah, it's not like send me a picture of your foot or I'm gonna kill you. It's like, hey, I enjoy when your feet appear in the pics, which is I kind of like
You're like,
don't
yeah.
do it. I kind of intentionally, very rarely, because I don't want to be like, come on down, but like, I just they're a lovely, harmless community.
I mean,
And
maybe you could get an
yeah,
OnlyFans, right? An OnlyFans, just do like foot
right.
and make money off of it. Capitalize on that.
The foot fetishists are willing to put money down for these things. I did a couple of months ago, back
Mhm.
it was like 500 years ago, but I did a foot stream for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Obviously not endorsed by the campaign, but it was like to raise money for the campaign. It was like I posted in some foot forums of like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm going to be like doing this, and it was like a friend of mine and I just did foot stuff, which is very low, like it really is very low pressure stuff. You're just like, my feet are in water. I'm going to paint my toenail on camera. And we made like $900 in an
Wow.
hour for the, so, I was like, sure. A sweet leftist community. No, but there were even some foot fetishists. They go so hard that they were like, I'm a centrist, but I will donate to Bernie Sanders because I'm
For
enjoying this foot stream. And you're like, okay, well, like, don't be a centrist, but also thank you.
you're just doing the work that needs to get done, Jamie. You're really
I
such a
hope he radicalized him. I'm
such a
like,
progressive an advocate for just liberal socialism, and you really go the extra mile, really.
I'm willing to get it. I wonder, I think about that guy all the time because I appreciate that he didn't have to tell us that.
No.
But he just he was like, but I respect your labor. Like, I think you are a leftist. It sounds like you're a leftist. Like, you should.
Yeah, I mean, like we're gonna embrace you with all your weird kinks and everything, man. Like this is the group you want to be
Come
in.
on down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
come on, dude. Like this is your tribe. Like you're missing out, right? Like
yeah.
you dive in, you're gonna find out a lot more, dude. And it's gonna get
It,
weird.
the most sweetie pie fetish community on the internet would be feet, hands down, feet down.
Well, I
Whatever.
mean, maybe now I'm thinking maybe I should do some weird stuff for money on OnlyFans. I'm like, I wonder, like, what would people pay for, right? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know that much about OnlyFans other
Mm.
aside from like it's a good revenue stream for sex workers who. Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
wait, here I am.
There you are.
That yeah.
That was funny. By the way, nice photo of your nosebleed. It's great.
Oh, I know. That's like me. That's a picture of me when I remember. It's a picture of me when I was 21 and I overdrafted at an IHOP and I got nervous. I got a nosebleed, and that's the pic. That's the story of the pic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's being broke and stressed out and young. That'll do it.
Exactly.
That'll do
It
it to you.
just. Yeah,
You're so
OnlyFans
much
seems
fun.
cool.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it
thank
seems
you.
cool. Yeah, it seems it sounds cool. I don't know. I've never done it, right? I don't think I'd pay for any of that stuff, honestly. But what I have
It's a
gotten
good
into,
revenue stream for people. Yeah.
yeah, is TikTok. And I didn't think,
Oh, okay.
as a millennial, I would be like, I definitely felt like I'm the old guy on there. But
I felt the same way. Yeah.
there's a lot of other millennials on there, and
Right.
there's just like it made me miss Vine. Like it was,
Yeah.
and Vine was so much fun. It really is like that. It's just hilarious, And they have my favorite TikTokers, and I found like they do like their daily posts, and I'm just like, oh, what are they doing today, right? And it's such an interesting kind of platform. Have you dived into it yet?
I have the same thing where I feel so old. Like it's the closest thing I can think of is like when Twitter was starting, and there would be like older people on Twitter who like had a Twitter account but they never tweeted, and I thought that was the weirdest thing in the world. I'm like, what are you doing, you creepy lurker? But that's literally me on TikTok. Like I just like
You just lurker.
I have an account so I can watch funny TikToks, but I don't post any. And so I'm like, I feel weird.
Now you're the lurker. Uh-huh.
Not I'm the lurker. I feel like there are I'm very inspired by my fellow millennials who have made it work on TikTok.
I mean,
and like
yeah.
it is, I mean, it's, I don't know. I think TikTok is such a cool space for, I'm going to sound 500 years old, but like the subcultures inside of TikTok are very fascinating to me. I love how like radically political TikToks can get out of nowhere. Like those are really fun.
I mean, they organized together and like they pretty much bought out Trump's kind of rally in Tulsa, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Like they're like doing these like, I mean, really organized things and like educating each other. And there's so many good like educational TikToks.
Yeah.
And then there's ones that are just, I mean, and then there's 5 million of just like teenagers dancing in a driveway. But there's a lot of good shit on there. I think it's
Bill
great.
Nye's on there. I like Bill Nye.
Nye is on there.
I follow NASA. I follow a bunch of scientists, and then just young comedians, people on there. You know, Whitney Cummings is on there, and she has some funny stuff. I honestly, because of that, I already followed her, but like because of that, I started listening to her podcast, and I already knew she was funny, but like I was like, wow, her podcast is good, right? Because
I've never listened to it.
Yeah, she puts clips up of her recordings or whatever up on there, and you know, like teasers, right? And they're just so good.
So cool.
And I'm just like, wow, like I got to go and listen to this. So I mean,
TikTok worked.
Yeah, and it's, well, I mean, yeah, we're taking it over, right? Just how our parents took over Facebook.
That's I bet that, yeah, wow,
Yeah,
that really hit for me. Yeah, I mean, unless it just goes the way of Vine and just disappears before anything bad can happen to it. But there is always that feeling of like adults being like, cool app do you have there? Would hate if something happened to it, and then they just like show up and ruin it.
They just ruin it all. I mean, like I mean, Jamie, I think that's us. It's not our parents.
It's literally us this time. That's why I'm like,
we're the parents showing up and ruining it. Yeah.
But I feel like, I'm like an aunt showing up at like a party being like, hello fellow kids, and they're like, get out of
cool
here.
Kids.
Like Steve Buscemi with the skateboard.
That's exactly what it is. And I'm not gonna lie, I've made some kind of like, the voiceover ones are funny. I've done some dad jokes for sure, and just like want to hear a dad joke, and then I'll just go into it, just super lame things, you know. Like, did you hear the one about the restaurant on the moon?
No.
Great food, no atmosphere.
Are you thriving on TikTok?
Oh, I mean, like, I think I couldn't get more dad energy, you know. And like,
I think that people like that though. I've seen some like cult TikTok surroundings over dad content where there's space there.
Oh, there's your space. I'm finding my niche. I think I have to lean into the dad, right? I have to lean in. I buy my shorts at Costco. I wear baseball caps now all the time.
Hell yeah.
My favorite thing is to water the grass and to cut it.
Damn.
And I'm just like, but it's so satisfying. And I don't see why
it's a lifestyle choice.
I don't know why people think it's a weird thing, that it's a dad thing. It's a great thing to do. I don't get it.
That's a very dad thing to say.
Like, stop touching the thermostat.
It's an efficient lifestyle.
This just makes sense. Why are you making fun of me?
Sorry, it's lame to want the temperature to be reasonable.
If you know what, if that's lame, I don't want to be cool. All right.
Exactly.
Jeez. And but you know what? I'm leaning in, and I'm not gonna lie. There's a whole demographic of women on online dating that like are actually okay into it. You know, talking about like fetishes, right? Like that's a thing. So you know what? I'm here for it.
Oh yeah, like,
It's
oh,
what,
you like sensible clothing and getting your errands done? That's a big turn on for a lot of people.
it's emotionally and financially stable, you know. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
appearingly, you know, my social media shows that I am a mess. I mean, the level of anxiety and the inability to cope with my problems and anxiety and my OCD and probably bipolar disorder.
Ooh, right there with you.
Right? I'm just like, little did you know. To you, it's funny. To me, it's the end of the world.
Right. Oh my God. I mean, especially like living, yeah, with OCD bipolar tendencies right now, it's so, I've been talking about it with
Oh,
other friends who, because it's just
yeah.
like so much of like the stuff I've been working or been whatever attempting to work on
Sure.
and off over a course of years has to do with like a deep rooted paranoia that everything could fall apart at any second. And so which
Oh,
makes
yeah.
this year
Oh, yeah.
extremely validating of everything that I've been trying to
Oh,
learn
yeah.
of like,
Yeah. What was I heard it at some point. It was like, and I felt attacked by the meme, honestly. So you know how true it is. It was something along the lines of like a woman going to her psychiatrist and saying like, you know what? Like, I really feel oddly comfortable with this pandemic. And they said, it's because your entire life has been chaos and this is what you're used to.
yeah,
And
yeah, you're like, oh,
I was like,
everyone's
oh, geez, that hit me right here in my corazón. And I don't know how to react to that besides maybe just go into bed for the rest of the day.
I know it really does just make you want to go
Right? I'm just
to
like,
bed
but
forever.
part of me was just like, welcome to the shit show, people. I've been here. And now you guys are more than welcome. If you need a guide, this is where the snacks are. Uh, they should already keep my bubbly water. And make sure to pre-order your meds months ahead. That way that you don't have to
Because
worry about it. Yeah.
you never know. You don't want to go a couple days without it.
Oh
Yeah, there's.
no. I love my text alerts. Your prescription's ready. I'm like, ooh,
You're like, oh, good, because
it's
I was
another
not going
errand
to
I can
remind
run.
it.
Yeah, another dad
Yes,
errand I can run.
dad culture. Love it.
All right. So what do you got going on these days? Let's plug some of your stuff. What do you got going
Sure.
on? You have a podcast right now, right?
Yes, I have the Bechtel Cast is the
Mm-hmm.
intersectional feminist movie podcast that I've been
Mm-hmm.
hosting for years with my friend Caitlin Durante.
It's a great
Uh,
one. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Uh,
What's the
that
premise? The you have to what kind of film does it have to be?
It could be any movie. It's just what you call it. It's two female identifying
Right.
characters with
Right.
names have to talk to each other about something other than a man for 2 lines of dialogue. And it just very rarely happens. But we talk about, I mean, that's just like a minute of the podcast, and the rest it's just talking about like representation and like how did this movie age? What did it mean in its time? And all that stuff.
Oh,
And we
like you
have,
dissect it. Yeah.
yeah, it's really fun. I mean, and it's definitely
Yeah.
it's kind of fun. It like does a couple different things for me. It like completely changed the way that I write too, because it's
Oh.
which is great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that does come out every Thursday. We just released our episode about the Cheetah Girls, so
Oh, nice.
which holds up very well. Although it has a bit of a problem with capitalism,
I
but
mean, yeah.
it's a Disney movie. It makes sense.
Mm.
But yeah, so I'm doing that. I am doing my solo show that I was touring with last year. I'm doing that on as a part of Austin Sketch Fest, which is
Okay.
remote this year. So
Okay.
it's basically just a free live stream of the show I was doing last year. So
No,
the
you're
show's
good.
called Posthumous Girl,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's on August 21st.
Oh, it's on August 21st. Where can people find all your stuff? Are you posting links like regularly on social media? What exactly are you doing to get the word out?
Yeah, it'll be on Twitter and Instagram. I haven't been promoting Posthumous Girl too much yet because I need to finish. I'm updating the script to make it the quarantine version of the show.
Sure.
And so I want to make sure that I finish writing it. But
Okay.
But yeah, I'll be plugging it out on social media incessantly because I let my
Nice.
Squarespace subscription lapse. So
Oh no.
that's gone. I just need to give them, I don't even know how much. I'm like, I guess I just need to give them money and suck it up. But I just let it lapse. I'm like, it's fine. I don't want to exist. Who cares?
Don't we all? Can we just end it now? Yeah.
Right. I'm like, take me out of my misery. My God.
So where can people find you? What's your handle on social media?
You can find me on Twitter at Jamie Loftus Help and on Instagram at Jamie Christ Superstar.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Listen, Jamie, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to hit
Thank
stop
you for
record, but we'll debrief really quickly. Guys, if you're listening, thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate you, and we'll catch you next time.